No
Right.
one fears Mike Dana. I'm just
Right.
saying that. No one fears Joshua Kane though. Like we don't have that force to where we just, a quarterback knows he's going to create pressure. And that's something that we could really use. Like we did
Right.
not have that
So
all last year and it hurt us.
yeah, so when you don't have it on the defensive end, so you're like, oh, well, they must have it on the interior. No.
Welcome back to All Chiefed Up. I am Steve and I'm here with Mike. And you asked for it, so we're delivering. We're going to talk about the defense a little bit here. Really hyped on a certain trade. Everyone wants us trading for Robert Quinn, the defensive end. Mike, have you seen that everywhere like I have?
I have. We talked about his age. We talked about his sack numbers. He still gets after the quarterback, but that 32 years old doesn't seem very Veach esque in the offseason that, the path we've been on. So I guess we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but I don't know if that trade's going to happen.
Maybe, maybe not. But hey, we need you guys to subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 before the season starts. We're pushing 600 right now. Hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends. Tell them come watch some Chiefs videos. And let's get to that 1,000 before the season kicks off. But yeah, Mike, I had talked about a Robert Quinn trade in past videos. I still think it's probably the most likely trade if we were to make a trade before camp or before the season starts or whatever. But I don't. I'm with you. I don't think it's gonna happen.
No, I think it's the age, the 32 years old. If it does happen, he does have to restructure his contract. I think he's in a 5-year deal. He's got 3 years left. We know most contracts are back end weighted, and we don't have that much money probably. So he would have to come in and restructure probably a 2 or 3 year deal. I don't know if he'll do that. I don't know if he'll want to do that. I just don't see it happening. I would give this trade probably like a 20% chance tops.
I don't think it's going to happen either. I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen. I think that the defensive line could definitely use some help. It's probably the weakest link on the team right now as far as depth goes. Defensive end, of course, we brought in George Karlaftis in the draft, but we still kind of have some holes. And then we've been talking about how we could definitely use like a more dominant force in the middle with Chris Jones than what we have. But I mean, Steve Spagnuolo, I mean, he's known to run that 4-3 defense. And if you look back to when he was defensive coordinator for the Giants in their heyday there, when they were beating up on old Tom Brady, he was running sometimes 3 and 4 defensive ends as his front there. Like he used small guys on the front four. I feel like maybe what if he tried to revert to that and kick Karloftis inside with Chris Jones? But I mean, like I said, the depth is not that great on defensive end. We got Mike Dana, uh, Malik Herring is who everybody was talking about. We don't even know if he's going to make the team. Of course, Frank Clark. But I mean, there's not a whole lot to choose from.
No. Defensive line depth is the biggest weakness on this team, in my opinion. I think all of Chiefs Kingdom would agree that the defense is starting to head in the right direction. I think
Yeah.
Veach hyper focused on the defensive backs in the draft. He added a couple pieces of linebacker in the offseason with Jermaine Carter, Elijah Lee, drafting Chanel. Um, Karloftis was the only thing besides Stallworth that we did on the defensive front this entire offseason. And I'm with you. Karloftis could kick down to the middle some. He may play, he's probably primarily going to play on the edge. I know they wanted to try Chris Jones at defensive end. Let's hope that little experiment's over with because that sucked. And but we got to do something. I don't know if the Robert Quinn trade is the answer. I don't know if a trade at this point is the answer. But if not, I don't know what to do. Like the defensive front could be a big weakness on this team.
If they did trade for Robert Quinn, I wouldn't be surprised to see them kick Karloftis down into the middle because Quinn, Karloftis, Chris Jones, and Frank Clark, that would be a good little team right there on the defensive line. But
Yeah, I think the one guy that we're forgetting, you didn't even mention him, Joshua Kando. I think
right,
it all I think it all depends on Kando. Is his development enough? Is he going to stay healthy? What's he do in this first full season of health? His off season, everything. Is he going to come in and contribute, or is he not going to do much? I mean, we know what we got with Mike Dana. we know what he's going to give you. Like I don't think he's got an extra gear he's going to find and just turn into a superstar. I think we've seen it, but
Right.
Kando, the jury's out. And do they like Joshua Kando that much? Is that why they're not scared? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. It's been pretty hush hush about him. You don't really hear a whole lot about Joshua Kane. I feel like since he's been drafted, I haven't really heard anything about the guy. He got limited snaps last year, and then I haven't heard anything much about him in the offseason. So maybe you're right. Maybe they're seeing more in him than we think. Now, in the middle, Stallworth, I'm pretty sure was just a depth signing. I don't think he's really going to play a whole lot unless they have to use him. But I mean, you got Turk Wharton and Derek Nottie. Derek Nottie's really going to help you more in the run game than, rushing the passer. But he did have 4 sacks last year, which we both found crazy when we looked that stat up. But okay, so like I said, if they kick Karlaftis to the middle sometimes and try to use like a smaller front four, what do they do? Put Mike Dana beside him?
Yeah, I guess if you don't go that route, maybe Malik Herring makes the team. I don't know. I'm not sold on Malik Herring making this team, to be honest.
He could be a lot of just camp hype. That always happens, OTAs and things like that. There's always the guys that people hype up and they're real big on, and then they don't even make the team.
Right. And Malik Herring could be just that. He may not be, but time will tell. But let's just say he don't pan out. I mean, I think Turk Wharton has played himself into a lot more playing time this year if he stays healthy. He's got a pretty good burst.
Well, you got to think though.
I could see him maybe even playing a little defensive end if needed.
Well, think about this though. Like Jaron Reed was not, the greatest thing ever. He was very underwhelming when he was in Kansas City. He got better last season and did a little bit, but he still didn't really put up what people thought he could do in there with Chris Jones. But he was still looked at as the number one guy there in that position. So if he was, producing the way he was and he was still getting the nod over Turk Wharton, over Derek Nottie, then that tells you that the coaches don't really have that much faith in those guys either. So I'm not saying that they don't have faith in them. I don't think they're good, but just they thought Jaron Reed was better.
You said that you think Chris Jones goes to Aaron Donald level or beyond if we get somebody playing alongside of him that takes a little heat off.
I don't think he would ever reach Aaron Donald level, but I think he could nip his heels.
He's just right under him right now. So, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, Donald's a clear-cut number one, but I think, Jones is in that level two. He's the top of the level two.
He is. I just think there's a large gap there.
Well, there may be, but the point is, we had that with Jaron Reed last year. That's what the Jaron Reed signing was supposed to do, is take some heat off Jones. And Reed come in and had like one of the worst seasons possible from a free agent I think you could have asked for.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that he was terrible, but he was very, very quiet.
No, he was pretty terrible.
Was he terrible?
I mean, He was, honestly, I think he was terrible. For the amount we paid and to take a shot on him, and I mean, he just underperformed. But we need a guy like that because I'm with you. I think Jones takes a step further, but it doesn't look like the Chiefs have thought that same thing because Stallworth and Wharton seems to be where we're going to go. Nottie ain't going to do it. He's been here with Jones the entire time, and he's not elevated Chris Jones's game. So
right. The only thing that would give me hope that they're trying to improve that defensive front is if they made a trade for Quinn. And like you said, there's a lot that goes into that. He's older. The contract is just ridiculous. So there's a lot that goes into that. So do I think it happens? No, but if it did, it would show that they were actually trying to do something up there. If you look at the rest of the defense, it fits right into Spagnuolo's scheme. Like I was talking about, he plays the 4-3. He normally likes those smaller, faster front four, but that's not what we got. But if you look at the rest of the roster, it's right up his alley. We got the physical corners, especially after bringing in Lonnie Johnson. You got guys that can get physical out there, and then we got physical safeties, and he loves the corner and safety blitzes and different blitz packages. And I think that the guys that we brought in for that, like Brian Cook, Justin Reed, there's just a lot of guys that are going to be great at doing that. They're going to excel at that. And I think the defense as a whole has a chance to go up a level this year and be great, probably after the first half of the season, I would say. But there's just a gaping hole in that defensive front right there that I think that's definitely the weak link.
By far, the defensive front is the weakest link. I don't know how we fix it, and I don't think it can be fixed, barring some trades. We've seen names being thrown out. It's not just Robert Quinn. We've heard from time and time again people wanting to trade for Daniil Hunter. We've talked
Right.
about that. I don't think the Vikings would ever trade Daniil Hunter.
No, I said it sounds great to Chiefs
It,
fans. Like, yeah, we get Daniil Hunter, but that's
right.
not reality. That's not what's going to happen.
There's no telling what they'd ask, and I don't think we'd be willing to pay it. Another name we're seeing thrown out, Chase Young from the Commanders. Why
Get
would they
out of
trade him?
here.
They just drafted him.
And he was elite as a rookie. Like, they're not getting rid of that guy.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of options out there. I mean, if we really wanted to fix the pass rush with an older pass rusher, I think you would have seen Brett Veach and them try to make a play for a Von Miller in the offseason, and they just didn't do it. I don't even think we considered Von Miller for a second. So why would we consider Robert Quinn? They're about the same age, right?
One guy that there was a lot of hype about early in the offseason before the draft and everything was Josh Allen from the Jaguars. And that kind of just disappeared like crazy. I ain't heard a peep about Josh Allen, and that would still be a good option, in my opinion.
Yeah, that is a good option. I just don't. I think when you reach out, you realize Jacksonville, just like any other team, Jacksonville is a big time rebuilding team. Like they're on the up, I believe, with Doug Peterson, but they're a rebuilding team and they don't want to get rid of defensive ends, young talent. Nobody wants to get rid of that. So if the Chiefs didn't make a focus to go draft it, which we did, we got Karlaftis, but where we went very DB heavy there late, I kind of was hoping we would have done that with a few defensive end pass rusher guys there.
They had a good draft. Veach and team had a killer draft. Can't really say they didn't, but I do think there was a lot of missed opportunity, especially late in the draft, to like maybe try to plug in some people on this front four, or like we had discussed before with the pass rush. Like, what if they waited a little bit on Brian Cook or you know Joshua Williams and tried to grab a Nick Benito or somebody like that? But they obviously don't. They don't have much worries about this defensive front like the rest of Chiefs Kingdom does.
Right. So after the draft was over and we went crazy DB heavy, we trade for Lonnie Johnson, another corner. We don't even try to trade for a defensive player like on the front five, front
Yeah.
four, whatever.
But I mean, I like that. I like Lonnie Johnson. And I think, now that he's with a team that will use him correctly, I think that he has a lot of promise.
No, I think Lonnie Johnson, that was a good trade, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, it doesn't look like we are looking to bolster the front four. It doesn't look like it. So, but look, this whole front four depends on just a few things. Are we going to be able to find enough depth at the defensive end spot that can get after the quarterback? Are we going to generate more sacks than we did last year? That's the number one. Number two, is Frank Clark going to come back to Frank Clark? Like, so far, he's been Frank non-existent. So,
He's
other
the
than
baby
that,
shark.
right. So, Frank Clark's got to come back healthy. That's number one. He's got to come back. He's got to come back like with a vengeance. We've got to find somebody that can play behind him and Karlaftis and be consistent. Dana provides good snaps, but he don't provide elite snaps. Like when Dana's on the field, you don't know if you're getting a sack or you don't know he's going to be washed completely out of the
No
play.
one fears Mike Dana. I'm
Right.
just saying that. No one fears Joshua Kando. Like, we don't have that force to where we just, a quarterback knows he's going to create pressure. And that's something that we could really use. Like, we did not have that all last year, and it hurt us.
Yeah. So when you don't have it on the defensive end, so you're like, oh, well, they must have it on the interior. No, we have Jones and Wharton is decent. Stallworth had one decent year in Indy. That's about it. Nadi's okay, but he's not exceptional. So we do not have that. And this division has loaded up not only with their own pass rushers, but they've loaded up their offenses. This isn't the season to go in very lackadaisical on that defensive front and just get blown off the field because we can't create pressure. Did Veach and them just accept the possibility that we can't get after the quarterback and they're just going all DB heavy? Was that their goal?
Well, what I was getting ready to say is maybe it's more of a scheme thing. Maybe they don't seem to think that they have to create the pressure with just that front four. We know that Spagnuolo loves the different blitz packages. He loves blitzing with those safeties and cornerbacks. So maybe they're going to start getting after the quarterback more with blitz packages that would include, Lonnie Johnson or Brian Cook and things like that, and put pressure on the quarterback that way. Maybe they think they don't need to do it all with the front four.
So that leads us into our next little thing. Linebackers. Like we've talked about the defensive ends, let's talk about the linebackers a little bit. With what you just mentioned, bringing in Leo Chenal, I think provides some pass rush. I
It
really do.
does. Yeah.
We had said in a previous video that we thought they were going to take 5 linebackers, but after doing a little bit of digging last year and the year before, it looks like the Chiefs like to keep 6. They kept 6 last year. They kept Bolton, O'Daniel, Hitchens, Neiman, Harris, and Willie Gay. So they probably keep 6 again this year, wouldn't you think?
It's a possibility, but you do have to remember that a lot of Spagnuolo's packages only include 2 linebackers on the field at one time. Because I think that Leo Chenal and Brian Cook are actually going to be competing for snaps, to be honest. It sounds crazy because they're not even the same position, but I think they're going to be kind of used the same way because Brian Cook's going to come in and take that Dan Sorensen role where most of the time Dan Sorensen should have just been blitzing most of the time because that's the only thing that he was decent at. He couldn't cover for anything. So I think Leo is going to be used for pass rush as well. And I think, do we really need 6 linebackers?
It's
We
special
we
teams.
need special teams. That's what I was going to say. We need special teams. So possibly for that, that's where they find a little bit of wiggle room in this roster to add some special teams guys on the linebacker. I don't know, man. I think it's a possibility if they had 6 last year, more than likely they're going to have 6 this year.
Talked in a previous video that Elijah Lee was starting to get a lot of snaps at the linebacker spot, and we thought he could make the team. I got to looking. He's had 62 solo tackles in his 6 seasons in the NFL at 6'3", 229. He only had 8 last year with Cleveland. But we seem to overlook Jermaine Carter, who, if you talk to Panthers fans, they did not like Jermaine Carter. But just last season alone, he had 88 tackles, 38 solo, and 50 assisted in 17 starts. And Jermaine Carter is a very good coverage linebacker. So why is it that Carolina fans did not like Jermaine Carter and said he was only a special teams guy? We must have seen something in him. So are we going to bring him in and then give all the snaps to Lee? That doesn't make sense, because if you look at these stats and you look at last year, Jermaine Carter looks like he was the guy brought in to bolster the linebacker core, not Elijah Lee, but yet Elijah Lee's taking the snap. So I find that kind of strange. I don't even think we made Jermaine Carter to make the team in our last assessment.
I don't remember if we did or not, but
he may be the 6th guy then. Maybe that's the 6th.
possibly. But like I said, I think it's going to be mostly for special teams because a lot of the packages only have 2 linebackers on the field. And I think that Leo, Nick Bolton, and Willie Gay are the 3 linebackers that's going to get 98% of your snaps. So, I mean, I don't know if they do carry 6 on the roster, do they really see defensive snaps, or is it mostly just going to be special teams?
Jermaine Carter, though, for starting 17 games last year, I feel like he had to have been told, hey, you're going to get a good chance to play. Like, you don't sign with a team if you don't think you're going to have a good chance to start after starting 17 games last season. So I feel like Jermaine Carter is like the linebacker nobody's talking about that very well could step in and play a lot in the Willie Gay row, especially if Willie don't stay healthy.
The cornerbacks, there's just a lot of competition in the cornerback room. I think the safeties are pretty set. You're going to have Juan Thornhill. He's definitely going to be starting. Justin Reed. Then you're going to have Brian Cook, and you also have Devin Bush.
I think Devin Bush should get that.
So I think that's probably your set there. And then the cornerbacks, they're going to be competing. There's no telling what could happen with all those cornerbacks. But I mean, I just feel like there's not even any competition on that front 4. If you look back at that, it's like who you got. You can't really have much competition because everybody that we have on the roster kind of has to be on the roster.
Yeah, so it brings us back to the whole point of the video. Are we going in the direction of Robert Quinn? I personally don't think they will do it, but I think we're both in agreement that no matter what we do, we have to do something.
Sure. Like I said, I think it's the most likely trade possibility. So if we make a trade before this season starts, that's going to make a difference. It's going to be Robert Quinn because, I mean, the Bears are shopping him. Robert Quinn probably wants to go to a team that can compete. I mean, he's getting older and he's been playing for the Bears. He put up 18 and a half sacks last year on a crappy team, man. That's got to be depressing. That could be the missing piece. If we could, like you said, if we could get a restructure and have him on a team-friendly deal and him be happy as well, that might be what we have to do to make it happen this season. But everyone that's been chirping about it this whole time, like, why aren't we trading for Robert Quinn? Why aren't we trading for Robert Quinn? You guys just have to hold on a minute, because if there's going to be a trade, it's going to be after Orlando Brown's contract is settled.
That's the number one priority. I do believe it gets done probably before camp, definitely before camp, but that's number one. That's number one. You can't go trading for Robert Quinn and dishing out big money to him before you get your left tackle signed. You can't.
I don't even know if we have it right now, but maybe once we get the structure of the Orlando Brown contract, there will be room to play with. And I think that's what people need to understand, that they're going to have to wait until that's done before we see a move. And also with Orlando Brown, that deadline's coming up soon. Was it the 15th? I think is the deadline. So we should be seeing some movement on that soon. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you get down in the comments and let us know what you think about this defensive front. Are they good enough to put some pressure on anybody? Are they a giant question mark? What can we do to fix it? And what do you think is going to happen with Robert Quinn? Do you think we trade for him or not? Make sure you hit that subscribe button. There's a lot of you guys watching, not enough subscribing. We're trying to get to 1,000 before the season starts, and I think we're going to get there. Hit that notification bell. Make sure you know when we come out with new stuff, and we will be back. Until then, chop on, Chiefs Kingdom. We're out. Baby, you're the one for me. Baby, you are meant for me. I'm in love with you. Baby, you're the one for me. Baby, you are